Despite his anxiety, a part of him felt a sense of calm and certain that his dream of having a son was about to come true. After several hours, the cries of a newborn filled the room. The doctor emerged with a smile, announcing, "Congratulations, it's a boy." Obina's face lit up with pure joy. "A boy, my son!" he exclaimed, tears of happiness streaming down his face. Ife and Obinna were the epitome of love. Their wedding was the talk of the town, a beautiful celebration that people would remember for years. Friends and family gathered, dancing and singing, to witness the union of two hearts so deeply in love. The ceremony was held in a grand hall, decorated with white ladies and gold drapes, symbolizing purity and prosperity. The couple's radiant smiles lit up the room. Their joy was infectious. A few months after their wedding, Ify started to feel different. She felt more tired than usual, and certain smells made her feel nauseous. One morning, she decided to take a pregnancy test, and two bold lines confirmed her suspicion: she was pregnant. Overwhelmed with joy, she waited eagerly for Obinna to come home from work. When Obinna walked through the door that evening, Ify could barely contain her excitement. "Obinna, I have news for you," she said, her eyes sparkling. Obinna looked at her, curious. "What is it, my love?" "I am pregnant," Ify announced, tears of joy streaming down her face. Obinna's face broke into a wide grin. He lifted Ify off her feet and spun her around. "This is the best news ever," he exclaimed. "We are going to be parents." As the weeks turned into months, Ify's belly grew, and so did Obinna's excitement. He was certain that they were having a baby boy. He started buying baby clothes in shades of blue, tiny football, and miniature cars. "Ify, we don't need a scan. I know it's a baby boy," Obinna would say with certainty every time Ify suggested they find out the baby's gender. "But what if it's a girl, Obinna?" Ify would ask, a hint of worry in her voice. "It won't be. My mother had 5 sons. My brothers all have sons. Ours will be no different," Obinna would reply confidently. Ify loved how excited Obinna was about the baby, but his insistence on having a boy began to worry her. She wondered what would happen if their baby turned out to be a girl. Despite her concerns, she didn't want to dampen his spirit. Every evening, Obinna would talk to Ify's belly, telling their unborn child about all the plans they had for him. "You will be a strong boy, just like your father," he would say. "I will teach you how to be a good football player, and you will become a star in the years to come." Ify would smile, but deep down she hoped that Obinna would just be as happy if they had a daughter. She often imagined dressing a little girl in beautiful dresses, teaching her how to cook, and sharing mother-daughter moments. As her due date approached, Obinna's excitement turned into an obsession. He couldn't stop talking about their future son, making grand plans and setting up a nursery filled with boyish toys and clothes. "Ify, our son will be the best," Obinna said one night as they lay in bed. Ify sighed softly. "Obinna, I'm happy, and I'll be so happy if we have a boy, but what if this child is a girl?" "It won't be, trust me, Ify," he said, kissing her forehead. "I know it, and I'm so confident about it." Deep down, Ify prayed that Obinna would love their child, no matter the gender. She clung on to the hope that his love for their baby would outweigh his obsession with having a boy. But as days passed, her worry grew, and she couldn't shake the feeling that their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't predict. As the months passed, Obinna's desire for his son grew into an obsession. He would come home every day with new baby items, all in the shades of blue. The nursery was soon filled with baby blue clothes, tiny football toys, cars, and posters of famous football players. Each item was carefully chosen with their son in mind. "If you look at this," Obinna would say, holding up a small football jersey. Isn't it perfect for our little boy? Ify forced a smile. Yes, it's nice, Obinna. But what if this child is a girl? We should be prepared for both genders. Obinna waved her off. It's a boy, trust me, he would respond, dismissing her concern. His obsession wasn't limited to their home. At work, he bragged to his colleagues about his unborn son. My son will be here soon, he would say with pride. He will be just like me. His friends congratulated him, sharing in his excitement. You are lucky, Obinna. Boys are the best, one of them said, slapping him on the back. Obinna beamed, soaking up in the praise. Yes, and I can't wait to meet him, he replied confidently. Every weekend, Obinna would drag Ify to baby stores, ignoring her protest. He would pick out the latest toys and clothes, always in blue. Ify tried to reason with him, but it was of no use. Obinna, we really should consider buying some neutral colors too, Ify suggested gently. No need, Ify. Our son will love these. These are so perfect, he said, holding up a boy truck. At family gatherings, Obinna was the center of attention. He would proudly talk about his soon-to-be born son, sharing his plans for their future. My son will be a football star, Obinna declared at family dinner. He will play for the best teams. Ify's parents exchanged worried glances, but they didn't say anything. They didn't want to dampen his excitement, though they shared Ify's concerns. As the due date reached, Obinna's obsession seemed to intensify. He couldn't stop talking about their future son, making grand plans for the life that they would have. He even started reading books on raising boy child and how to be a boy dad, confident that he would soon need the knowledge. The day of the delivery finally arrived, and Obinna could hardly contain his excitement. The drive to the hospital felt like an eternity. He held Ify's hand tightly, her mind racing with thoughts of the moment he would meet his son. Ify, on the other hand, was a bundle of nerves and excitement. As they reached the hospital, the staff quickly took Ify into the delivery room. Obinna was left pacing the hallway, his heart pounding with anticipation. He sent messages to family and friends, announcing that the big moment has arrived. My son will be here soon, he texted, smiling to himself. Hours passed, each minute felt like a lifetime. Obinna couldn't sit still. He walked up and down the hallway, glancing at the delivery door every second. The sounds of the hospital, the beeping machine, and the hurried footsteps of nurses added to his anxiety. Finally, the door opened, and the doctor stepped out with a broad smile. Obinna rushed over, his heart in his throat. Congratulations, Mr. Obinna. Your wife has given birth to 3 healthy babies, the doctor announced. Obinna's joy knew no bound. His face lit up with grin so wild it seemed like it might never fade. 3 babies. Wow, I'm so happy. What are their sexes? He asked eagerly, his voice trembling with excitement. The doctor's smile softened. 3 beautiful girls, he replied gently. Obinna's face fell. The joy that had filled him seconds ago drained away, replaced by a heavy sinking feeling. He stood there, stunned, as the doctor's words echoed in his mind. 3 girls, he repeated softly to himself, struggling to process the news. Would you like to see them? The doctor asked. Obinna nodded numbly and followed the doctor into the room. Ify lay on the bed, exhausted but glowing with happiness. She looked up and smiled weakly at Obinna, her eyes filled with love and pride. Look, Obinna, she whispered, pointing to the 3 tiny bundles in the bassinet beside her. Our beautiful daughters. Obinna forced a smile and walked over to the bassinets. The babies were tiny, delicate, and perfect in every way. He felt a pang of guilt for his disappointment, but couldn't shake the feeling in his heart. They are beautiful, he said quietly, reaching out to touch one of the baby's tiny hands. The baby wrapped her fingers around his, and for a moment Obinna felt a flicker of connection. But the weight of his expectations crushed quickly. After a few minutes, he couldn't stay any longer. He kissed Ify on the forehead and told her he needed some air. I'll be back soon, he promised. But his voice lacked conviction. He left the hospital, his mind in turmoil. His footstep led him into a nearby bar, a place he hadn't visited in many years. He sat down and ordered a drink, then another, and as he drank, the reality of the situation sank in, and tears of frustration and disappointment welled up in his eyes. Why girls? He muttered to himself. I wanted a son. He continued to drink. His thoughts grew darker, and he couldn't face going back to the hospital. He couldn't bear to look at his daughter without feeling the weight of his shattered dreams. He ordered another drink, hoping to drown his sorrows and escape the overwhelming sense of loss. In the dim light of the bar, surrounded by strangers, Obina's world felt like it was falling apart. He had dreamed of this day for so long, and now it was nothing like he had imagined. He drank deeply, trying to numb the pain, but it only seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. At the bar, Obina drank heavily. He tried so much to forget his disappointment. He ordered drink after drinks, each one going that faster than the last. The bartender gave him a sympathetic look but said nothing. Obina's thoughts swirled in a haze of alcohol and regret. As he sat there, a woman walked in and sat a few seats away from him. Her eyes were red from crying, and she had ordered a drink with a shaky voice. Obina glanced at her, noticing the sadness that mirrored his own. They made eye contact, and in that moment, there was an unspoken understanding between them. The woman moved closer, taking the seat next to him. Rough night? She asked, her voice soft but filled with pain. You have no idea, Obina replied, his words slurred. I am Adaeze, she said, extending her hand. Obina responded, shaking her weakly. They sat in silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. Eventually, the alcohol loosened their tongues, and they began to share their stories. Adaeze told Obina about her heartbreak, how she had been abandoned by someone she trusted. Obina, in turn, shared his disappointment about the birth of his daughters. I thought I was having a son, he said bitterly, but it was 3 girls. 3 girls, not even one son. Adaeze nodded, her eyes filled with empathy. Well, life doesn't go as we plan, does it? No, it doesn't, Obina agreed, taking another swig of his drink. The nights wore on, and their conversation grew more intimate. They laughed, cried, and found solace in each other's company. The bar grew quieter as the night deepened, but Obina and Adaeze were wrapped in their own world of shared sorrow. As the last call for the drinks were announced, Obina and Adaeze looked at each other, a silent decision passing between them. They left the bar together, stumbling slightly as they walked. The night air was cool, and they held on to each other for support. They found a small hotel nearby and checked in. In the dimly lit room, their mutual sadness turned into a physical connection. They sought comfort in each other's arms, trying to forget their pain, if only for a little while. The next morning, the harsh light of the reality streamed through the window. Obina woke up with a pounding headache and a heavy heart. He glanced at the sleeping form of Adaeze behind him, and the event of the previous night came rushing back. Regret and shame washed over him. He quietly got out of bed and checked his phone. There were numerous missed calls from Ify and from his mother. He felt a pang of guilt but couldn't bring himself to call them back. Instead, he sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands, trying to make sense of what he had done. Adaeze stirred and woke up, looking at Obina with bleary eyes. Morning, she said softly. Morning, Obina replied, his voice thick with regret. We both made mistakes last night, Adaeze said, sitting up and wrapping the sheet around herself. But we can't change what had happened. Obina nodded, but her words did little to ease his guilt. He knew he had to face the consequences of his actions, but he wasn't ready to do that yet. As he dressed and prepared to leave, he couldn't shake the feeling of shame that clung to him like a shadow. Days turned into weeks, and Obina couldn't bring himself to face Ify and their daughters. Each time he thought about returning home, he was overwhelmed by guilt and shame. He avoided their calls and messages, burying himself in work and spending more time at the bar where he had met Adeze. One evening, while Obinna was nursing a drink at the bar, Adeze walked in and sat next to him. She looked nervous, her eyes darting around the room before finally settling on Obinna. "Obinna, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice trembling. He looked at her, sensing something serious. "Adeze, what is it?" "I'm pregnant," she blurted out, tears welling up in her eyes. For a moment, Obinna was stunned into silence. Then a strange sense of relief washed over him. He saw this as a sign, a chance to start over. This time, he believed things would be different. He would finally have the son he always wanted. "This is a sign, Adeze," Obinna said, taking her hand in his. "We can start fresh. This time it will be a boy." Adeze nodded, though she looked unsure. "What about your wife and daughters?" Obinna's face hardened. "I can't go back to them. I have to move forward. This is not the future I envisioned with her." The next day, Obinna packed his things and left the house he had shared with Ify. He didn't leave a note or a message. He simply walked out, leaving behind the life they had once cherished. Ify came home that evening to find Obinna's things gone. Panic set as she searched the house, hoping it was just a mistake. But the reality soon hit her. Obinna had left them. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face as she held her newborn daughters close. In the following weeks, Ify struggled to come to terms with their new reality. She had to be strong for her daughters, even as her heart broke every day. She took on multiple jobs, including cleaning houses, selling goods at the market, and anything else she could find to make ends meet. The days were long and exhausting, but she refused to give up. Her daughters depended on her solely, and she would do anything to provide for them. Her family and friends rallied around her, offering support and comfort. They helped with the babies, took turns in babysitting, and brought meals. Ify was grateful for their help, but the pain of Obinna's abandonment was a constant ache in her heart. Meanwhile, Obinna moved in with Adeze. They found a small apartment and began to build a life together. Adeze was supportive and tried to make things work, but deep down she was worried. She saw the pressure Obinna put on their unborn child and feared what happened if it wasn't a boy. Obinna threw himself into preparations for the new baby. He bought more blue clothes, toys, and even started decorating a new nursery. His obsession with having a son grew stronger every day. He ignored Adeze's concerns, dismissing them with a wave of his hand. "It will be a boy this time," he said confidently. "I can feel it." As months passed, Adeze's belly grew, and with it her anxiety. She tried to talk to Obinna about her fears, but he wouldn't listen. He was fixated on the idea of having a son, convinced that this child would finally bring him the happiness he craved. Ify, on the other hand, found strength in her daughters. Watching them grow and thrive gave her a sense of purpose and determination. She refused to let Obinna's abandonment define their lives. She would raise her daughters with love and strength. The months flew by, and soon Adeze went into labor. Obinna was a bundle of nerves and excitement as he rushed her to the hospital. He held her tightly, whispering words of encouragement as she endured the pain. Despite his anxiety, a part of him felt a sense of calm and certain that his dream of having a son was about to come true. After several hours, the cries of a newborn filled the room. The doctor emerged with a smile, announcing, "Congratulations, it's a boy." Obinna's face lit up with pure joy. "A boy, my son," he exclaimed, tears of happiness streaming down his face. He kissed Adeze's forehead, overwhelmed with gratitude. "Thank you, Adeze. You've made me the happiest man alive. I am a proud father of a healthy baby boy." Adeze smiled weakly, exhausted but relieved. She handed their son to Obinna, who held him gently, marveling at the tiny perfect futures. "See, it wasn't my fault after all," Obinna thought to himself, feeling vindicated. He named their son Emeka after his father. Obinna poured all his love and attention into his new family, determined to give Emeka the best life possible. He spent every waking moment with his son, from feeding him to changing his diapers to rocking him to sleep. As weeks turned into months, Obinna's obsession with Emeka grew. He taught him to kick a ball as soon as he could stand and bought him the best toys and even enrolled him in the most prestigious preschool in town. Every milestone Emeka reached filled Obinna with immense pride. Adaeze, however, felt the strain of Obinna's obsession. She noticed how he seemed to forget about his past life entirely. There were no calls to Ife, no attempts to see his daughters. It was as if Ife never existed. She tried to talk to him about it. Obinna, what about Ife and your daughters? Don't you think about them? She asked gently one evening as they sat together, putting Emeka to bed. Obinna frowned, dismissing her concerns. They are fine, Adaeze. Ife is strong, and I'm sure she can take care of her daughters, not mine. The focus is on Emeka now, my son. Adaeze sighed, sensing the futility of arguing with him. She loved Obinna and was grateful for his dedication to their son, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong with the way he had abandoned his first family. Meanwhile, Ife continued to raise her daughter with strength and determination. Chika, Chisom and Chioma grew into bright, happy children, their mother's love and dedication shaping their lives in profound ways. Ife found solace in her daughter's laughter and achievements, though the pain of Obinna's abandonment lingered. Her family and friends remained her pillars of support. They encouraged her, helped her with the children, and reminded her of her own strength. Ife worked tirelessly, juggling multiple jobs to provide for her daughters. Despite the hardship, she never let her spirit break. One day, she received a call from an old friend who had heard about Obinna's new life. The news of Emeka's birth reached her, and while it stung, Ife chose to focus on her daughters and their future. She refused to let Obinna's choices define her or her children's lives. Obinna continued to build a life around Emeka, immersing himself in fatherhood. He took Emeka to every doctor's appointment, attended every school event, and was the proudest father at every milestone. In his eyes, Emeka was his redemption, the proof that his dreams had come true. Adaeze watched this unfold with mixed emotions. She loved Obinna and their son, but she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that Obinna's unresolved past would eventually catch up with them. She worried about the impact on Emeka and wondered how long they could continue living in this bubble of selective happiness. Ife worked tirelessly, raising her daughters with love and strength. Each day was a battle, but she faced it with determination. Her morning started before dawn, preparing breakfast and getting the girls ready for school. She made sure their uniforms were clean and their homework was done, all while juggling her own work commitment. Ife took on various jobs to make ends meet. Despite the long hours, she never complained. Her priority was ensuring that Chika, Chisom and Chioma had everything they needed. The community around Ife noticed her hard work and often stepped in to help. Neighbors would bring food and even help with some school runs. Ife was grateful for their support and it eased her some of the burdens. Despite the challenges, the girls thrived under Ife's care. Their teachers often praised them for their intelligence and kindness. Ife attended every parent-teacher meeting, beaming with pride at her daughter's accomplishments. As the girls grew older, they became more aware of their father's absence, but Ife chose to focus on the present, creating a loving and stable environment for them. One day, Chika found an old photo of her father and mother tucked away in a drawer. She brought it to Ife, her eyes filled with questions. "Mom, do you miss him?" she asked softly. Ife looked at the photo, a pang of sadness in her heart. "Sometimes, Chika, but I have you girls, and that's what makes me happy." Chika nodded, understanding the unspoken words. She hugged her mother tightly, feeling the strength that had kept their family together. As the years continued to pass, Ife's hard work began to pay off. She saved enough money to open a small business, a catering service that quickly became popular in the community. The girls helped out after school, learning the value of hard work and dedication. Their business grew, and with it, their sense of accomplishment. Ife was able to provide more for her daughters, giving them the opportunity she never had. She enrolled them in some extracurricular activities, bought them new clothes, and even managed to take them on short vacations. The bond between her and her daughters grew stronger each day. They shared their dreams, fears, and hope for the future. Ify encouraged them to pursue their passion and assured them that they could achieve anything they set their minds to. Remember, girls, we are strong, we are a team, and nothing can break us. If you would tell them, yes, mommy, we are strong, they would echo back, their voice filled with conviction. A few years later, life seemed to be going well for Obinna and his son Emeka. Emeka was growing into a bright and active boy, much to Obinna's pride. He enrolled Emeka in the best schools, and every weekend was filled with activity, especially football practice, music lessons, and family outings. Obinna felt he was living the life he had always dreamt of. However, one fateful day, Emeka fell seriously ill. He developed a high fever that wouldn't go down. His energy seemed to drain away completely. Obinna and Adaeze rushed him to the hospital, panic etched on their faces. The doctors conducted several tests and informed Obinna that Emeka needed a blood transfusion urgently. His hemoglobin was low, and without hesitation, Emeka offered to donate his blood. He was led to a separate room where a nurse took blood samples for matching. Hours passed and Obinna paced the hospital hallway, his mind racing with worry. Adaeze sat quietly, her hands trembling as she prayed silently. Finally, the doctors approached them with a grave expression. "Mr. Obinna, I am afraid we have a problem," the doctor said, his voice measured. "Your blood type does not match that of Emeka's. We need to find another donor immediately." Obinna was stunned. "What do you mean it doesn't match? There must be a mistake. Emeka is my son." The doctor shook his head. "I am sorry, but there is no mistake. We need to act quickly to save your son's life." Confusion and panic turned into suspicion as Obinna stared at Adaeze. "How is this possible, Adaeze? How can Emeka's blood not match mine?" Adeze's face went pale and tears began to stream down her cheeks. "Obinna, I didn't know how to tell you, Emeka. I didn't know how to tell you that Emeka is not your biological son." Obinna felt as if the ground had been pulled out from under him. "What are you saying? Do you lie to me?" Adaeze sobbed, unable to meet his eyes. "The man I was with before you, he denied the pregnancy. I was desperate and scared of raising a child alone. And when you came along, I saw it as a chance for a better life for my son. I didn't think it would matter at all." Rage and heartbreak overwhelmed Obinna. He had built his entire life around a lie. "How could you do this to me? To Emeka?" he shouted. The doctors intervened, reminding them of the urgency of Emeka's situation. "We need to find a matching donor now," he insisted. Obinna, though shattered, quickly agreed. "Do whatever it takes to save him," he said, his voice breaking. As the hospital staff scrambled to find a matching donor, Obinna sat in the waiting room, numb and in shock. He couldn't believe the betrayal. He thought about Ife and his daughters, the family he had abandoned for a mere lie. When a suitable donor was found and Emeka's transfusion was underway, Obinna faced Adaeze. "You need to leave. Take Emeka and go. I can't do this anymore." Adaeze pleaded with him, but his resolve was firm. "Please, Obinna, don't do this. Emeka needs you." Obinna shook his head, tears in his eyes. "I need time. I need to think. But right now, I can't even look at you." After a few days, Emeka was discharged and Adaeze left the hospital with him, her heart heavy with guilt and regret. Obinna was left alone, filled with remorse for the choices he had made in the past. He couldn't shake the image of Ify and his daughters from his mind. He realized how much he had lost because of his obsession and pride. Obinna heard about Ify and their daughters and how well they were doing. Word had spread in the community about Ify's catering business and how her daughters were excelling in school. Each story he had filled him with a mixture of pride and deep regret. He knew he had to seek forgiveness, not just for his sake, but to attempt to make things right. With a heavy heart, Obinna made his way to Ify's house. As he approached the familiar door, memories of their life together flooded his mind. He hesitated for a moment, gathering the courage to knock. When he finally did, it felt like an eternity before the door opened. Ify stood there, her expression a mixture of surprise and guardedness. The years had been kind to her, but there was strength in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Please, Ify, forgive me. I was wrong. I won't be part of your lives again," he pleaded, his voice trembling with emotion. Ify looked at him with tears in her eyes, the pain of the past clear on her face. "Obinna, you abandoned us. We moved on. The pain of being without a father was hard, but we survived and we are still surviving. We don't need you anymore. Go and face your son and your wife." Her words cut deep, but Obinna knew they were deserved. "I understand, Ify. I don't expect you to forgive me easily, but I want to give it a try. I just want to be there for Chika, Chisom and Chioma. Please give me a chance." Ify shook her head, her resolve firm. "You left when we needed you the most. The girls have grown up without you. You didn't see any good in them. That is why you left them for a boy child. They've had to learn to be strong because you weren't there. It is too late now, Obinna." Obinna's eyes welled up with tears. "I know I can't change the past, but I want to try and make amends. I want to be a father to them, even if it's from a distance. Please, Ify, please." At that moment, Chika walked up to her mother, seeing her father for the first time. She paused, her eyes wide with confusion. "Mom, who is this man?" she asked, though part of her already knew. Ify took a deep breath. "This is your father, Chika. He wants to talk." Chika looked at Obinna, her expression unreadable. "Why are you here now?" she asked bluntly. Obinna knelt down, trying to meet her gaze. "Please, I know I have made many mistakes. I wasn't there for you all when you needed me, but I want to try and make things right. I want to be part of your lives, if you would let me." Chika's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. "You can't just walk back into our lives and expect everything to be okay," she said, her voice shaking. "We've been fine without you. I know, and I'm so proud of you for being strong. I just want to be there for you now, even if it's just a little," Obinna replied, his voice breaking. If he placed a hand on Chika's shoulders, "We need time to think about this, Obinna. You can't expect us to forgive and forget so easily. You hurt us so bad for many years." Obinna nodded, understanding the gravity of what he was asking. "I'll give you all the time you need. I am not going anywhere. I'll be here, waiting, hoping that one day you will let me in." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Ify and Chika standing in the doorway. The visit had been painful but necessary. He would do whatever it took to earn their forgiveness and prove that he could be the father and partner they deserved. However, his pleas had fallen on deaf ears. Ify and her daughters had moved on, building a strong, loving family without him. Despite his attempts to reconnect, they remained resolute in their decision. They had endured too much pain and had grown stronger together in his absence. Obinna was left to deal with the consequences of his actions, a lonely man with nothing but regret. He spent his days reflecting on the choices he had made and the family he had lost. His once vibrant life felt empty and hollow. The laughter and joy that had filled his home were now just distant memories. Ify and her daughters, on the other hand, continued to thrive. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. Ify's business flourished and she became well respected in the community. Her daughters Chika, Chisom and Chioma excelled in their studies and extracurricular activities. Chika, now a teenager, had become a pillar of strength for her sisters. She excelled in school, often winning academic awards and participating in various school activities. She had a natural talent for leadership and was well loved by her peers and teachers. Chisom, with her curious mind and love for science, dreamed of becoming a doctor. She spent hours reading and conducting experiments, her passion evident to everyone around her. If he supported her dreams, providing her with the resources she needed to explore her interests. Chima, the youngest of all three, was full of energy and creativity. She loved to draw and paint, often creating beautiful artworks that Ify proudly displayed around the house. Her laughter was infectious, and her imaginative stories brought joy to their home. The family often spent weekends together, exploring new places, cooking meals, and sharing stories. They celebrated each other's achievements and provided comfort during difficult times. Their home was filled with love, laughter, and the sense of unity that no challenge could break. Obinna, now living alone in a small apartment, often thought about the family he had left behind. He kept a photo of Ify on his nightstand, a constant reminder of his mistakes and the life he had lost. He tried to move on, but the emptiness in his heart remained. He decided to channel his regrets into something positive by volunteering at a local community center, helping children who came from broken homes. He hoped that by making a difference in their lives, he could find some semblance of redemption. He reached out to Adeze, wanting to still be a part of Emeka's life. He had known him as a son and could not afford to end the relationship just like that. The story teaches the value of family, showing that neglecting or abandoning loved ones can lead to deep regret and irreversible consequences. It highlights the strength and resilience of Ify and her daughters, demonstrating how they overcame challenges and thrived despite difficult circumstances. Obina's obsession with having a son led to his downfall, illustrating how inflexible expectations can destroy relationships and personal happiness. While seeking forgiveness is important, it is not always granted, and one must live with the consequences of their actions. The story also shows the power of community support in overcoming adversity and underscores the crucial role of a parent in a child's life. Overall, it shows that a child is worthy of love and care, irrespective of the gender. Despite abandonment, love and dedication from a single parent can make all of the differences. Thanks for watching this captivating story on African stories and folktales. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories. Thank you.